Bonnie and Clyde, a sociological insight. Arthur Penne's Bonnie and Clyde was released on August 13, 1967. It tells the story of two characters, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow. The two meet and go on to rob banks, gas stations, and restaurants while falling more and more in love with each other in the process. The film is loosely based on a real Bonnie and Clyde from the 1930s. What the film shows and idolizes is the relationship between the two. It romanticizes the criminals and adds a complex human aspect to them. The film is different than your average crime thriller in the sense that it does not focus on the good guys, but instead on the bad guys and makes them the protagonist. We follow these characters throughout their criminal journey from the time they first meet to when they are both actively robbing banks and murdering a few people. Which was huge, by the way. Most people these days when this film first released weren't used to seeing this sort of thing, which really adds to the dangers that these characters bring. The film praises this timeless couple that goes against the status quo and shows how society views them in one particular scene with its use of editing. Let's take a look at this scene. The scene that I wanted to look at takes place roughly around the hour mark. The scene focuses on the Barrow gang, which by this point consists of Bonnie, Clyde, Clyde's older brother, Buck Barrow, his wife, Blanche Barrow, and good old C.W. Moss, as they rob a bank in Texas. As they rob the place, we see that Clyde shoots an officer as he reaches for his gun, but he doesn't kill him simply because that's not who Clyde is, and killing someone is the last thing he wants to do. This is shown earlier in the film when Clyde is forced to shoot a person in the face, which he later verbally expresses that he's upset about and blames C.W. for forcing his hand. In the same scene as mentioned earlier, we see Clyde's act of kindness when he lets an innocent bystander keep his own money. Through all of this, we are able to gather that Clyde is a man of integrity and values doing the right thing in whatever situation he and his gang are in. The editing further plays into this idea and focuses on the sociological impact that both Bonnie and Clyde had on not just the people that they interacted with at this bank, but all over America as well. Immediately after they rob the bank, they run outside and get into a pretty intense run from the police in their car. The scene stands out because it is intertwined with another scene as it shows the innocent people from the bank and the police officers at the scene of the crime jump cutting back and forth between the two.
And all I can say is, they did right with me, and I'm bringing me a mess of flowers to their funeral.
This is parallel cutting. Parallel cutting is a technique used in film editing to contrast specific characters, ideas, or themes. In this more modern approach to parallel cutting, it takes two different shots and are played side by side to highlight key differences while reaching the same goal. Take the scene from 22 Jump Street directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, for example. We see our protagonists as they experience their own trips while on the same drug. One is having a bad trip, while the other is having the time of his life. Through this, we are able to see where each of them stand in the film. This shows us that they are different and not on the same page, which causes major conflict between the two. Bonnie and Clyde does the same thing because it contrasts these criminals who are actively running from the police in this scene, while also being praised for the public for doing what they did. We can see this using a mise-en-scene viewpoint because of the particular props being used in the shots of the people at the scene of the crime. We see them being interviewed and eagerly having their photos taken there. The edit tells us that in the moment they are wanted criminals, but later on it shows just how valued this couple are. It tells us that time changes how we perceive things. This is the goal of this scene and why I believe that Bonnie and Clyde means so much in our history and why they are idolized in this way. They went against stereotypes of what a couple should act like, but instead showed us that love is not boring. The two loved each other so much and sacrificed a lot to be with each other. Because when you sacrifice something for someone you love, it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing anything because you're willing to do it to make that other person happy.
Well, I'm Miss Bonnie Parker, and this here's Mr. Clyde Barrow. We rob banks.